Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Eric, a teacher with LSAT Demon. Joining me is Nathan Fox, co-founder of LSATdemon.com and the weekly podcast Thinking LSAT. Today we have an email from Abigail.
Abigail says, "Hi, LSAT Demon team! Exclamation point. I hope you all are doing well! Exclamation point. Very enthusiastic email. I am currently studying for my August LSAT. Although my test scores have been improving, I have noticed by the time I reach section 4, whether it be LR or RC, I typically average a -10 to -15. I am not perfect in either section yet, with my LR averaging around -4 to -8, and my RC averaging -5 to -9. I don't know how to overcome this slump or burnout. Any tips? Have a great day, Abigail." Thanks for writing in, Abigail.
Yeah, I don't want to just straight up say I don't believe you, but I would want to see all of the data to show that this is actually happening, because I suspect that you are selectively picking out some stats to confirm your own hypothesis here.
Or just small sampling it. You know, even if it's not cherry picking, it's just students are always seeing trends, and it's questionable whether students have enough data to support any trend.
Yeah. I'll say this because we get questions about fatigue quite a lot.
Yep.
It's not a thing. Now, I will say, I'm speaking specifically for people who are not taking the test over the course of like 5 hours, which if you have the higher end of time accommodations, it might be a longer test. But I actually had the opportunity at a recent conference to speak to someone from LSAC.
Yep.
Who said, nope, we studied this, and there is not a fatigue effect for a 4-section LSAT. There isn't. They had to study that back at the end of Flex when they were going to add a 4th section, or maybe it was before that, but at the very least, when they ended Flex and they added a 4th experimental back to the test, they were like, okay, let's look at the data. Is there a decline in scores over 4 sections? And I, like a great podcast producer, do not have this proof for me right here in front of me, but someone from LSAC told me, we studied it, there is not a fatigue effect over a 4-section LSAT. That happens. It's been widely studied in other realms as well. For instance, like the bar exam or medical boards, that sort of thing. It's right around the 5-hour mark when there is a noticeable mental fatigue effect in test taking.
Okay.
So I'll just tell you, the study indicates that it's not real.
I would believe that there is no fatigue there's no fatigue effect for people who are good enough at the test. That I would believe 1,000%. If they were testing me or you or any of our other LSAT Demon students, or, if they were testing people who can score in the 170s, I don't think you're going to see a fatigue effect at all, because it's just not taxing to do something that you're that good at. When you're somebody like Abigail, who, she says, I'm not perfect in either section. Well, the truth is you're not really very close to perfect either. If you're, sometimes missing as many as 8 on LR, or you say your average is between 4 and 8 on LR and between 5 and 9 on RC, that means that you're okay at those sections. No better than okay, though, because for every question you miss, I think there's another question that you got right, but weren't really very solid on. Just, I think every mistake indicates that, okay, this one was a 50-50 and I missed it. There was another one that was a 50-50 and I got it right. And there's something there that you're just not really understanding. So I would believe that could be taxing, despite what LSAC says about there not being a fatigue effect.
Sure.
If you're asked to do something that you're just not very good at, then it gets tiring to do a bunch of that. Because think about how how does that feel to be doing a section of LR? And I guess the midpoint of -4 and -8 is -6. But if you're missing 6 questions, that means there's a lot there that you're not really getting.
Yeah.
And that's got to be tiring. And that's only counting your mistakes. That's not even counting the other 6 that you might have gotten right off of a 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, either way, my advice is going to be stop thinking about these kinds of trends. Stop worrying about fatigue. Stop worrying about section 4. None of that is really your problem. Your problem is you need to get better at logical reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get better at reading comprehension. Every single one of your mistakes is a golden opportunity to learn something. The test tells you clearly what you don't understand. Every missed question. So review those missed questions. Read our written explanations. Watch our video explanations. Use the ask button if you need any clarification. We've got a whole team of tutors that'll get back to you within 24 hours. Exhaust the potential of each individual mistake. Stop thinking so much about your averages. Stop thinking so much about your trends on section 4. Stop thinking so much about your 120 to 180 LSAT score. And instead, just get really serious about reviewing why the right answer is right, why the wrong answer is wrong. How did you make 2 mistakes to miss that one question? You picked a wrong answer. It's wrong. It's objectively wrong. There's a reason why it's wrong. It's provably wrong. You also failed to pick the right answer, even though it's sitting there on the page right in front of you. It's provably right, and you didn't pick it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a lack of attention. You're not being careful enough. You can't miss very many questions if you're reading carefully, because the test is very literal. It means what it says. So think about that. How can you read what it said, read the question that they asked you about what it said, then go into the 5 answer choices and both pick a wrong answer and fail to pick the right answer? At least half of those mistakes are just because you misread stuff. You probably misread multiple things in one question.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I can see how misreading could feel tiring. Even if there isn't a fatigue effect as far as scores, and even if this is like an illusion or a small sample artifact or whatever,
sure,
that Abigail particularly is looking at, I believe you, Abigail, that it's tiring to do the LSAT this way.
Yeah.
It's got to be tiring to miss questions.
Yeah.
But it won't be so tiring if you just slow down a little bit and read a little bit more carefully. Because if you read a little more carefully, you'll realize that the questions just kind of answer themselves. Understand what it says. Understand what they're asking you. Understand what the answer choices say. And you're already 95% of the way there.
Yeah. It'll definitely be more fatiguing if you are actively trying to finish sections when you shouldn't be. If you're worried about the timing, then you're thinking simultaneously about timing and about trying to be accurate. And now your brain is split. And yes, that does sound tiring.
That's tiring. You're doing more work than I do. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and you don't want to like compete with me while also I'm doing less work than you are. Mm-hmm. That's not a game. That's not a game you want to try to play. Mm-hmm. And I mean it literally. I do less work than you do on the test because you're managing the clock. I'm not managing the clock. I ignore the clock. I turn the clock off. It's not my business. I also don't read all the way through many of the wrong answers. I don't have to read all the way through it to know it's wrong. Mm-hmm. But because you misread the passage, or because you didn't quite read what the question asked you, or because you didn't read the beginning of that answer well enough to know that it's wrong, now you have to read the entirety of that wrong answer. And you also have to read the entirety of B and the entirety of C and the entirety of D. And now you're comparing wrong answers to one another. Mm-hmm. I don't have to do that work because I read the passage carefully in the first place.
It's like you're in a bicycle race and you've just got the like GPS coordinates telling you turn by turn, okay, go here. And your competitor has to have like a compass and a map out, trying to navigate while also on their bicycle. And the wind is blowing the map into their face. Yeah.
Yeah. You ever read about Lindbergh crossing the Atlantic for the first time?
No, that must have been wild.
Because he did it basically by like navigating using the stars and stuff. I mean, it was just crazy. He actually had like on his lap, he was like keeping track of, okay, I've been going at this compass heading for this amount of time
Yeah.
at this amount of wind speed. And he's like doing math to calculate where he is because there was no radar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
have you watched Masters of Air?
No, what's that?
Or Masters of the Air? It's the latest in the series of Band of Brothers, the Pacific, those World War II series. This one's on Apple TV, but it's about bomber pilots and the bomber teams in those B-17 flying fortresses. And there was the guy who was doing exactly that, who had the map out.
Figuring out where the hell we are.
And is like timing how long they've been going in a particular heading, and is looking out the window to try to spot landmarks on the horizon. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So don't do that. Just plug in the coordinates on your GPS and don't worry about trying to keep time as you go. Yeah.
Well, that would be tiring, right? Like Lindbergh didn't have autopilot. Lindbergh was like literally had to stay up all night because otherwise he would just get lost at sea.
Oh my goodness.
And today, it's like you've got GPS, you've got autopilot. Like it's going to be easier to fly the plane.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Abigail. Hope that was all helpful.
Thanks.
Review your mistakes more thoroughly. Read more carefully. The test will get easier. And then you won't have any fatigue if you're even really having fatigue at this point. Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.